Hello everyone. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for telling my grandma something the entire family kept from her? About a month ago, my boyfriend said he wanted to meet my family. I knew in all likelihood compost would hit the fan given the way my family operates, but since I knew he probably wanted to propose to me soon and I'd already met nearly his entire extended family, I gave in. Most of my family would be in town for my cousin's vow renewal, so I figured I'd introduce him at the family dinner 2 days after. Like I expected, from the minute we walked in, they were already making several remarks about him, his race, his looks, and his complexion. At that point I was ready to turn around and leave, but I really did want him to finally meet my mom and younger brother, so whenever he asked me what they were saying in our language I would lie and say they were talking about something else. He hasn't said anything, but I suspect he knows I was lying. Once I was alone, my grandmother went on and on about how he looked like a cheater and a wife-beater and I'd better not have any intentions of marrying him, because it would be a stain on our family. Paraphrasing here, she said something like sampling different people was fine, but that I should know better about who to bring home. Other than my mom, who tried to correct her in some way, every other member of my extended family didn't say a word as my grandma tore down someone who I had just introduced as my partner. ATP, I completely lost it and brought up my uncle, who she idolized all the time. She looked at me shocked like I'd said something I shouldn't have, but I went on to say that rather than trying to control a stranger's narrative, she should talk to her son, whom we all knew constantly cheated on and beat his wife, and that rather than trying to sneak the poor woman out of my uncle's house, they should encourage her to leave with her own 2 feet, and that trying to sweep the issue under the rug was the true stain on our family. Once I shut up, I realized that no one had ever thought to tell her that her son was filth. Now my entire family is mad at me because I let the secret slip before they could tell her calmly in a way that wouldn't burden her. They said I had essentially chosen someone I might not even end up with over the peace of the family. As I only heard the tea from the grapevine myself, I figured there was and was not a chance she might know, but in the heat of the moment, I said it regardless. I don't necessarily feel bad about telling her this way, but I sure don't feel great about it either. Was I the asshole? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for not allowing my estranged, disabled mom to move in with me? My 38F mom, 64F, have a very estranged relationship stemming mostly from her treatment of me as a child/teen and her continued treatment of me into adulthood. I've seen her 2 times in 18 years, it has been 10 since I saw her last for a family funeral, and she was not at my wedding in 2013, nor has met any of my 4 children, born in 2016, 2019, 2021, and 2024, who she outright says she loves more than me. She ignores me most of the time, specifically when I'm pregnant and newly postpartum, and unless she needs me for something, whether it be money, help with legal matters, help with filling out paperwork, researching healthcare stuff, etc. Over the past 2 years, my mom, who was already on SSDI for spinal stenosis and had a hard time standing and walking, has become fully dependent on a wheelchair. She cannot transfer, cannot stand up at all or for any length of time, and has gone to the hospital and ended up in rehabilitation at least 2 times. She eats infrequently, has trouble sleeping, and is obviously depressed. She relies on SSDI and alimony from my father to pay rent and bills, and is barely scraping by. It's clear to me that my mom cannot live alone anymore, but she can't afford to go to a nursing home, and doesn't want to be in one because of all the old people. Her friends have reached out to me on Facebook and by phone to ask if I will move my mom from Florida into my home in the PNW. With 4 children, a disabled husband, and only enough room for us as it is, plus with my estranged relationship with my mom, I really don't feel like I'm the best option. I do have a brother, unmarried, living GF, no kids, who lives on the same coast, but he lives in a walk-up apartment and can barely make ends meet. There is absolutely no way he can care for my aging, disabled mother instrumentally or financially. Without going into detail or throwing my mom under the bus, I've told her friends that I don't think it's possible, but they are adamant that I'm an asshole for abandoning my mom over minor issues, and say family can work through everything. They tell me these things should never separate a mother and a daughter. I disagree to an extent. I feel horrible for my mom. I do not wish her ill. She deserves to eat, to be cared for, to have a place to live. She deserves support. But she does not inherently deserve those things from me when she is narcissistic, toxic, and sometimes downright cruel. I feel like it'll be my fault if she ends up homeless or something, but I also kind of feel like she made her bed, and it's unfortunate she has to lie in it. Our relationship will not improve if she moves in with me. She will just have easier access to be cruel. Or maybe that's just an excuse. I don't know and don't trust my judgment. I'm racked with guilt and questions. I really don't know what to do. My gut says not to allow her to move in with me, but I don't want to be a bad person. Am I the bad person if I don't have my mom move in with me? What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for calling out my girlfriend's sister after making an inflammatory/derogatory comment towards me in front of everyone? This past weekend me, I'm 26, and my GF, 25, got invited to a family get-together by her dad, which isn't unusual. I have a great relationship with both my GF's parents, and they'll invite us every chance they get, and as long as we're free, I'm happy to take them up on the offer for a good weekend get-together. This time, however, coincidentally, I had just landed my first career-defining job as a petrochemical engineer, which I'm super excited about, so once we get there, conversations start flowing. Things are great. I catch up with the dad, and my GF brings up the job I got. Dad is overjoyed and decides it's worthy of a toast, and everyone obliges. A couple minutes later, Megan, F29, GF's sister, comes over, blah blah blah. Eventually she congratulates me on my job, but then she sneaks in a bit of a weird comment. She said, "Congrats on the big job offer. I know you've worked for it. At least you're not one of those DEI hires." Now I heard it clearly, but I just needed to make sure, so I said, "Excuse me," and she actually repeated it. Me being a black immigrant and all, I'm just completely shocked, and then seeing the shock on my face, she tries to explain herself, saying, "Oh, you know, I didn't mean it like that. Just with the new policies and all," and I just shut her down. Said something along the lines of, "Just stop it. You're starting to sound fucking stupid." Admittedly, I was a bit heated, but I felt she deserved it, so now I start to turn, and the rest of the family started to notice the exchange. GF's parents and GF come to chat to us and take us indoors to calm down away from everyone else, but they can still see us through the sliding glass doors. Ended up explaining what happened, and luckily Dad and GF were on my side. Their mom mostly stayed quiet, but she said I shouldn't have called Megan fucking stupid. I doubled down and said if she wants to make comments like that when white women are the ones who benefited the most, then yes, she is stupid. Megan proceeds to start sobbing after I say that, and since everyone can see us, Dad was just like, "Get out of here and take Leah, GF, with you. We'll deal with this." Not in a negative way, more concerned for me since he didn't want to make it bigger than it already was. It's been a few days since, and I've talked to Dad and things seem smooth with him, but Mom hasn't talked to either me or Leah, neither has anyone from the get-together. Am I the bad person? Can't wrap my head around that story. What do you think? Who is in the wrong there? Let us know down in the comments section, and let's move on to our last case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for breaking up with my boyfriend after he asked me to pay him back for my share of our dates? I, 26F, have been dating this guy, 29M, for about 2 months. He's incredibly sweet, thoughtful, and we get along really well. We've been going on a lot of dates, dinners, movies, a few weekend trips, and I was really starting to see potential in him. From the beginning, he always insisted on paying, and whenever I'd offer, he'd just smile and say, "We'll handle it later, don't worry about it." I didn't think much of it. On the rare occasions when I did pay, he'd always ask me how much I spent, which I found a little odd, but I just assumed he was particular about finances or something. Then, out of nowhere, he texts me saying he's a little tight on money and asks if I could send him some of what I owe him. I was confused because, as far as I knew, there was nothing I owed him. When I asked what he meant, he told me to download an app called Crayfi, where I'd be able to see all the expenses he's tracked. So, I download the app, and the moment I log in, I see every single dinner, coffee, Uber, and even a gas station stop listed under my name, with a total of $520 that I apparently owe him. I was completely caught off guard. He never once mentioned that he was keeping track of everything. I thought he was treating me on these dates, and if he wanted to split costs, he should have said something before accumulating a tab. It felt less like a relationship and more like I'd unknowingly opened a line of credit with him. I told him I wasn't comfortable with this and that I wished he had communicated it up front. He said he just assumed this was fair and that, since he grew up poor, he was always mindful of money. He wasn't rude about it, just very matter of fact. But to me, it just changed the whole dynamic of our relationship. I ended things with him and did not pay the $520. But now I feel a little guilty. Maybe I overreacted? Maybe this is just how he manages finances because of his background, and I should have been more understanding. So, am I the bad person? You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.